Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Emily's Stories. People often say, men are like a deep well, but women are a complex treasure chest. Perhaps that's why when a woman strays, her secret isn't easily hidden. Tonight, we bring you a tale of forbidden emotions, betrayal, and the consequences of love gone wrong. Settle in as we unravel the story of infidelity, where desire and loyalty collide in ways you won't expect. John had always known there was something special about his stepmother, but it wasn't until that summer when things truly changed between them. As a 12-year-old, John had lived with his father and his new wife, Emma, for a few years now. She was always kind, caring, and made sure that John never felt the absence of his biological mother, who had passed away when he was young. But that summer, as John transitioned into adolescence, everything started to shift. He became more aware of the world around him, of himself, and most notably, of Emma. It wasn't just the way she looked, though she was undeniably beautiful, with her porcelain skin and delicate features. It was the way she made him feel. The gentle touch when she brushed his hair back, the soft scent that lingered after she hugged him. One warm afternoon after school, John hopped on the back of Emma's bike as they made their way home. His arms instinctively wrapped around her waist, and for a moment, he felt safe. Yet something inside him stirred, a feeling he couldn't quite place. Emma didn't notice, or at least, she pretended not to. When they arrived home, the house was empty. His father, always busy with work, was out of town for the week. After lunch, John retreated to his room, but his mind was elsewhere. Emma was downstairs, humming softly as she prepared dinner. He couldn't focus. That evening, as they sat down for a quiet meal, John tried to suppress the confusing emotions that had been bubbling inside him. Emma was her usual self, chatting about mundane things, asking him how school was, and reminding him to finish his homework. But as the meal went on, he found it harder to maintain eye contact, his face flushing whenever their hands accidentally brushed. Later that night, Emma knocked softly on John's bedroom door. "Are you okay, sweetheart? You've been awfully quiet." He nodded, not trusting his voice. Emma sat on the edge of his bed and gently touched his arm. "You know you can talk to me, right?" There was a moment of silence as John looked into her eyes, those deep, caring eyes that had always made him feel safe. But tonight, they did something else. They ignited something within him, something that scared him as much as it excited him. "I'm fine, Emma," he finally managed to say, but he wasn't. He wasn't fine at all. Over the next few days, the tension between them grew. Every time they were alone together, John felt the weight of the unspoken feelings between them. Emma, ever the responsible adult, tried to act as though nothing had changed. But she wasn't blind to John's growing infatuation. She saw it in the way he lingered just a little too long when they hugged, in the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. One evening, as they sat together watching television, John's head resting on Emma's lap, he felt the warmth of her body against him. His heart raced. He didn't understand why, but he knew that things between them couldn't stay the same. "Emma?" he whispered. "Yes, John?" She glanced down at him, smiling, but there was an uncertainty in her eyes. She had noticed the change too. He began, unsure of what to say. The words stuck in his throat. "I love you." Emma froze. It wasn't the kind of love a child typically expressed to a parent. She could feel the shift in his tone, the weight of his confession. "I love you too, John," she said carefully, her voice soft but firm. "You know that." "No," he said, sitting up and facing her. I love you." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't seen this coming, not so soon at least. She had always known that their bond was strong, but she had hoped it was just a phase. Now, she was faced with the reality of the situation. She could see the longing in his eyes, the confusion of a boy on the verge of becoming a man. "John," she began, choosing her words carefully, "what you're feeling, it's normal for someone your age, but I'm your stepmother. This isn't the kind of love we can act on. It's complicated." John's eyes filled with emotion. "But it feels real," he whispered. Emma took a deep breath. She knew she had to tread carefully. Feelings like this can be powerful, but they're not always right. You're still growing, still learning about the world. He looked away, embarrassed. "I don't want to lose you." "You won't," Emma reassured him, though her own heart was heavy. "But we need to keep things the way they are, for both of us." John nodded, though deep down, he wasn't sure if he could ever see her the same way again. As the summer days passed, the tension eased, but the memory of that night lingered. Emma did her best to maintain a sense of normalcy, but she could see that John had changed. He was quieter, more distant, but respectful of her wishes. She too had changed. The boundary they had crossed would never be fully mended, but they both knew it was for the best. On John's 13th birthday, his father returned from one of his long business trips. The house was filled with the sounds of laughter and celebration, but as John blew out the candles on his cake, he caught Emma's eye. She smiled at him, a bittersweet smile, one that held 1,000 unspoken words. They both knew what had happened that summer was something they would never forget. But life, as it often does, moved on. John grew older, and with time, the feelings he once had for Emma faded into a distant memory. What had once seemed so intense, so undeniable, became just another part of his journey into adulthood. As for Emma, she carried the weight of that summer with her, a quiet reminder of the fine line between love and responsibility. She had made her choice, and though it had been difficult, she knew it was the right one. And so, the two of them continued their lives, forever changed, but stronger for having lived through it. In the end, it wasn't a love story, but a story about choices, boundaries, and the complexities of growing up. And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our story, a tale of love, confusion, and the difficult path to understanding ourselves and others. Sometimes the emotions we feel are overwhelming, but in the end, it's the choices we make that define who we are. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you next time with another story.